There is a particular kind of evil that is almost impossible for the human mind to process. Not the evil of a stranger, not the violence of someone we never knew, but the evil that sits across from you at breakfast, that tucks your child into bed at night, that holds your hand and says, "I love you," and means none of it. In the Melbourne suburb of Mornington, Australia, in the autumn of 2004, a husband and father did something so calculated, so cold, and so methodical that even the detectives who spent their careers working homicides said they had never encountered anything like it. He killed his pregnant wife while she slept. Then, 4 days later, he killed his 20-month-old daughter. And then he went on television and begged for them to come home. His name was John Sharpe, and this is the story of Anna and Gracie, the two people he was supposed to protect. Anna Marie Kemp was born and raised in New Zealand. By all accounts, she was warm, vivacious, and deeply devoted to the people she loved. Her family described her as the kind of person who lit up a room, someone whose energy and care for others were impossible to miss. In the mid-1990s, Anna found herself living in Mornington, a semi-rural suburb on the Mornington Peninsula southeast of Melbourne. It was there she met John Miles Sharpe. They worked together at the Commonwealth Bank. John was local, born and raised in Mornington on February 28, 1967, the son of shopkeepers Valerie and Miles Sharpe. He had grown up there alongside 4 older sisters and a younger brother. By those who knew him, John was described as socially awkward, emotionally immature, and heavily reliant on his parents. He had struggled at school, failed his final exams, and lacked what many around him called basic emotional intelligence, having difficulty processing stress, managing conflict, or connecting meaningfully with other people. But he and Anna married. Almost immediately, Anna had doubts. According to her brother, she confided in her mother shortly after their honeymoon. "I think I've made a mistake." She described the marriage as passionless. There was no real intimacy, she said, no real connection. But she stayed, and in late 2002, she became pregnant. On July 6, 23, Anna and John's daughter was born. They named her Gracie Louise. Gracie was born with hip dysplasia, a condition affecting the development of the hip socket, which required multiple surgeries and ongoing treatment. She was frequently in pain and frequently awake at night, crying. It was a stressful and exhausting time for both parents. But by all accounts, Anna embraced it. She adored Gracie. Friends and family described her as a devoted, joyful, hands-on mother, exactly the kind of parent you would expect from the woman they knew. John, on the other hand, was struggling. The sleepless nights, the medical appointments, the financial pressure, the marriage that had never really worked. By the end of 2003, John Sharpe had quietly decided he wanted out. But he didn't want the mess of a separation. He didn't want lawyers or custody arrangements or having to share Gracie. He didn't want to give Anna half of what they had built. So he made a different plan. Sometime in 2003, John Sharpe walked into a local sports store and purchased a high-powered spear gun. March 23, 2004, before dawn. Anna Sharpe was asleep in the bedroom she shared with her husband. She was 5 months pregnant with their second child, a boy they had planned to name Francis. John Sharpe stood over her. He fired the spear gun into her head while she slept. She did not wake up. She did not have the chance to fight back or run or call for help. She died in her own bed, in her own home, in the suburb where she had built her life, murdered by the man who was supposed to love her. John Sharpe wrapped his wife's body and buried her in a shallow grave in the backyard of their home at 6 Calarco Drive, Mornington, and then he got on with his day. Gracie was still in the house. She was 20 months old. She couldn't speak in full sentences. She couldn't understand what had happened to her mother. John Sharpe would later tell police that in the moment he murdered Anna, he already knew what he would have to do about Gracie. He would wait 4 days. March 27, 2004, John Sharpe put Gracie to bed that night as usual. Then he poured himself several glasses of whiskey mixed with codeine. He later said he needed to numb himself for what he was about to do. He stood over his daughter's cot. He covered his face with a towel. He later told police he could not bring himself to look at her face. He fired 4 spears into his 19-month-old daughter. Gracie Louise Sharpe, who had already survived multiple surgeries, who had barely begun to walk, and who had never once been able to hurt anyone, died in her cot. John Sharpe then disposed of Gracie's body, wrapping her in garbage bags secured with duct tape. He placed her, along with some of her toys and the weapons used to kill her, at a local refuse dump. He had already removed the mattress Anna had died on and replaced it. He would later exhume Anna's body from the backyard, dismember her using an electric chainsaw he had purchased, and dispose of her remains in pieces across multiple locations, including the Mornington Refuse Transfer Station. He kept the receipts for the chainsaw, the tarpaulins, and the duct tape, not because he was careless, because at this stage, he still believed he was going to get away with it. Within days of the murders, John Sharpe began constructing a lie. He told anyone who asked that Anna had left him. She had run off with another man, he said. It was a messy, painful situation, but that was the truth of it. She would be back to collect Gracie soon. There was nothing to worry about. He accessed Anna's email account and sent messages to her family in New Zealand, writing as Anna, telling them she was safe, happy, and pregnant by a new partner. The tone, her mother later said, was completely wrong. It didn't sound like Anna at all. On March 29, 2004, just 6 days after the murder, Anna's mother reported her daughter missing to police in Dunedin, New Zealand. On May 20, 2004, New Zealand police formally requested that Victoria Police conduct inquiries into the disappearance of Anna Kemp and her daughter Gracie. Officers from Mornington visited the Sharpe home and spoke with John. He repeated his story calmly. Anna had left voluntarily on March 23rd. She was fine. He had no idea where she was now. And then John Sharpe did something that investigators later described as one of the most chilling aspects of the entire case. He went on television. Sitting in front of cameras, John Sharpe held up a photograph of Gracie and made a public appeal directed at Anna, asking her to come home. His voice was measured. His face was composed. He said, "Anna, our marriage may be over, but I still love you, and you are the mother of our beautiful daughter Gracie, whom we both adore more than anyone else." He signed a written declaration to the police confirming he had nothing to do with his wife's disappearance. Detectives watched the interview, and they were not fooled. Police had begun covert surveillance of John Sharpe. What they observed over the following weeks built into a picture that was impossible to explain away. They captured footage of John visiting a Mornington toilet block where Anna's ATM card and mobile phone were later found, discarded. They watched him dispose of items in rubbish bins around the area. In one crucial piece of evidence, covert surveillance caught him retrieving a credit card hidden in a plastic bag behind a toilet block in Mount Martha. Then, investigators searched the house. They found that the mattress from the master bedroom had been replaced, purchased brand new just 2 weeks after Anna's so-called disappearance. They found handwritten notes in John's writing, discarded in bins around Mornington. The notes detailed his cover story in careful, methodical detail. There were even backup stories, alternative versions he had prepared in case the first one was challenged. A receipt for an electric chainsaw, tarpaulins, duct tape, and then the evidence that closed the trap entirely. Inside the house, forensic investigators found blood. Not a small amount. The blood of both Anna and Gracie Sharpe is present in the family home. On June 22, 2004, 3 months after the murders, John Miles Sharpe was arrested and taken to St. Kilda Police Station for questioning. He was interviewed twice. In the first interview, he held to his story. Anna had left. He knew nothing. Then, the investigators told him what they had found: the blood, the receipts, the surveillance footage, the notes. John Sharpe spoke to his family, and in the second interview, he confessed. John Sharpe told detectives everything. He told them why he had killed Anna. He said their marriage was unhappy, that she was, in his words, controlling and moody, that he had wanted out but did not want to face the consequences of a separation. He told them about the spear gun and the morning of March 23rd. He told them about Gracie. He said he had known from the moment he killed Anna that he would have to kill Gracie too, because a 20-month-old girl, he reasoned, would eventually be old enough to say something. He told them where he had disposed of the bodies. Witnesses and investigators who were present at the confession later described Sharpe's demeanor as utterly detached. He spoke, one account noted, as if he were recounting what he'd had for breakfast. No remorse, no emotion, just a clinical, methodical account of what he had done and why. Police launched a massive search of the Mornington refuse transfer station. It took 3 weeks, working through tons of compacted rubbish across the landfill. Forensic teams methodically searched for what remained of Anna and Gracie Sharpe. They found them both. John Miles Sharpe appeared before the Supreme Court of Victoria and entered guilty pleas to 2 counts of murder. On August 5, 2005, he was sentenced to 2 consecutive terms of life imprisonment with a minimum non-parole period of 33 years. He will not be eligible for parole until 2037, by which point he will be 70 years old. He currently resides in protective custody within the prison system, having received repeated threats to his life from fellow inmates. The case was covered extensively across Australia and New Zealand. It became the subject of a Crime Investigation Australia episode titled The Mornington Monster, the nickname the Australian media gave John Sharpe, and the one that has followed him ever since. Anna Kemp Sharpe was 41 years old. She was 5 months pregnant. She was, by every account of everyone who knew her, a woman full of warmth and love, a devoted mother who had already given so much of herself to little Gracie and who had so much more to give. Gracie Louise Sharpe was 20 months old. She had already been through more pain in her short life, with her hip surgeries and her medications and her sleepless nights, than most children face in years. She deserved to grow up. She deserved a childhood. Neither of them got that. What happened at 6 Calarco Drive, Mornington, in the early hours of March 23rd and the night of March 27, 2004, was not a crime of passion. It was not an act of madness. It was premeditated. It was planned. It was cold. And the man responsible will spend the rest of his most productive years behind bars, thinking about the towel he held over his face so he didn't have to look at his daughter. Anna and Gracie deserved better. They deserved so much better than this.